Hi there, Randi Green here, and just to make sure, yes, it is a living human being that is talking here at the end of this podcast, and that's where I want to go with this number 5, because we know number 5 is both the principle 5 inner knowledge, but it's also linked to the artificial 5th dimension, and that's where I want to go a little bit today, before I talk about some of the other ideas when we talk about congruency in business principles. I've taken up an experiment with my own HAL Academy. First and foremost, I have begun creating a business. On Google Business, you can kind of create a business profile, which will then push you higher up the ladder of the CEO, and that is the search engine. I think it's organization. The way when people look up things on Google, it depends on how. If you lie low in the hierarchy, people have to look on page 10 before they find your website. If you push yourself further up, you will be, within the first 10 pages that are shown, and people pay fortunes for this, which I looked at, on my one.com internet company, and they would, ask of me to pay this or that or whatever. They would do it for me, or I could figure out how to do it myself. And that's where I began with the business profile on Google, using what they have got for free out there directly. Of course, no ads. But I'm also contemplating on putting ads on my YouTube channel because as I talked about earlier, everybody's expecting everything to get it for free now, which I do myself. We look on YouTube and you get it for free there. And even though people are saying, oh yeah, please donate. How often do I donate? Not often. So this is again where we are in this in-between states of, yes, we would like to earn money because we have to pay our bills, but at the same time, what are we to do and how far are we going to get entangled into the whole pay for products, or are we going to do the donation base, which again is impossible, especially in Denmark. We don't have a donation culture here. So for me, it's this balancing between earn enough so I can pay my bills and do what I need to do in terms of the projects that I engage myself in. And then at the same time, not completely get swarmed into the whole do business for profit, but understand that there needs to be some kind of balance, exchange rate. And that's what the factions call it as well, exchange rate, which of course involves energy and it involves consciousness and it involves the product itself. So exchange rate is not just about, oh yeah, this is what it's worth, because when we talk about our products, what are they worth? How do we put the price on our products? And this is again where I talk about the energetic side of it. For instance, if in terms of the template readings I used to do, I had to price them down, make them cheaper than they actually the worth of it, because the energy of it, the hassle I had to do with it, the expense it had on me energetically, the expense it had on me in doing that, and the ramifications of it, and the aftermath that what needed to be cleared. That in itself, how do you price that? How do you put a product price on that product of a template reading? It should be so much more expensive, including healing as well. And this is where we're limited, as in, okay, we can't really go with the energetic exchange rate because that will then be too high a price. So what can we do then? What is our possibility in terms of when we talk the right price for our products? And this is where it kind of goes with both have the understanding of what's the price out on the market, but also the understanding of what does other take for the same kind of service. But here again, it goes in and say when we talk about service products, which I do, where we have a person that is providing it, then it depends on how good are people actually in what they're doing. For instance, if you go see a healer, is he or she a really good healer, or is he or she a less good healer? And I know some of you say, well, Randi, you normally say don't go and visit a healer. Yes, but this is used as an example where we talk about a type of energy work. That how do you price that? How do you put some kind of price on a product like that, which the healing service actually is? Or if we talk about an artistic painting, we could say, well, that is again how many people wants to buy that artistic painting? Is it a good painting or is it a bad painting? It depends on taste, right? What do people find to be what they want to have in their home? What's in their taste in that, and what's the cultural ideas behind that artistic expression? Is it something that's up in the time? Is it hype? Is it what everybody wants? Then supply and demand. The more they want things, the more expensive it gets. So we go into this whole understanding of rarity, as if something is rare as an artistic painting or a collector's item or what have you. If there are few of them, then the price will be higher, because then there are what we could say not a surplus of the item. Whereas if we have a lot of a little gadget, well, then typically if there's a high demand of it, yes, the price can get higher. But if it's cheap to produce, then the price can still be kept low. So there are all of these. How do we price something when we talk about consulting services, when we talk about that's a human that's creating it, that it's an expression of energy and consciousness. It is a service that goes with knowledge, and how far can that knowledge be utilized with advice or consulting or anything that goes in that weird zone where it's difficult to price it, because it's not just about demand. It's not just about the dynamics on the markets. It's not just about what it's made of. There are so many other subtleties that goes in and determines what the price should be. So these are some of the things, whatever you are deciding to make as your own business. How do you price your item? How do you price your product? If it's made of some kind of physical matter, well, it's kind of easy, because there you go and say, what's the cost of this product? How much has it cost me in terms of resources, in terms of energy, in terms of production, in terms of how many people have been involved, in terms of if there is some kind of wrapping around it, how much does it cost to market it? How much does it cost to push it across the counter? Where can you sell this product? Is there a huge market for it, a small market for it? All of these things will determine the price. And then, of course, going and say others that are producing the same item, what's the competition there? That might also push the price a little bit lower or rise the price a little bit higher. So again, these are some of the dynamics that need to be taken into consideration. So there are, when we talk about pricing, at the end of the day, for me, with the whole academy courses, in terms of what I'm producing, in terms of the type of energy, in terms of what people actually could get from it if they were telepathic, if they were able to see the energetic content, if they were able to visualize the content, then the price could technically be higher. But because most people are listening to it and are absorbing it in a linear way, then I have to price it within the realms of what we could say the base program exchange rate. This is a product. This is what it would be anticipated within the range of the same type of course material. And again, according to Danish laws, Danish tax, Danish VAT, and what have you. And I'm still pricing it low compared to what the effort and what I actually put in of energy. But if we calculate the time I've used or spent to creating it, the way I'm working around this, well, then the price is probably where it should be. That's why I landed on the typical price around 100 euros. So that kind of covers my time invested in it, the effort I put into the circumstances around creating the podcast, uploading it, and onward and so forth, including the content of it. So this goes with kind of gut feelings. And also, when do we tip over and become too greedy in our price setting? And when do we push it too low because we feel uncomfortable with asking something for our service? Which is, and we'll talk about the old world order, spiritual healers, they had kind of got a little bit of hiccups, actually asking for being paid for their services, which I've seen many places. And that's, well, just because you're a healer, then are you supposed to not be paid for your services, which goes back to when we talk about in the ancient times, if you had a medicine woman, well, then the tribe would survive, ensure that she would survive by supplying her with food, by coming past when they needed help with some ailment, they would bring tobacco, they would bring food, they would bring something that they knew the medicine woman would need. They would help her fix her hut or take care of where she was living. There would be the young men of the tribe that would come and make sure that she had what she needed to utilize her own soil. She had around the hut and all these kind of things. And she would find a lot in the forest as well. I'm talking about an ancient memory here as my time as a medicine woman in a Native American tribe. So this is how the community would ensure that I had what I needed, similar as we've seen with the Buddhist monks that should be taken care of by the community because the Buddhist monk keeps the energies pristine. So this is where the community gives back to the services that are being provided by the healer or the medicine woman or the Buddhist monk. Where in our time, well, we are not really part of a community, are we, in that manner? So we still have to make sure that we are doing it all by ourselves. And hence, it is in order to demand a price and get payment for our services due to the change of reality. But this is how everything has been pushed out of what we call a natural economy, where we are assisting each other, where we trade goods, where we trade food, where we are giving something that will uphold our existence rate, to put it that way, within the natural means of exchange of the services that we could provide to each other. So that would be what we call a more primitive type of economy. And some of you that like to study how did that change from the natural economy into being where we began using metals and all sorts of stuff. When did that happen and why did that happen? There are many good ideas of that one. Okay, so that's a little bit of price setting, but that's not where I wanted to go today with, but we can say it kind of goes within a knowledge. It goes with later on the correct use of energy and correct use of power, because it all comes down to, in a way, we could say trade is based upon energy exchange, but also a means of power. And, let's not go down that rabbit hole, but there are definite connotations built to it. As in people that have a lot, they have more power. People that have less, they have little power, right? So that's tied into that wrongful use of power. And there are a lot of things when we talk about the energy behind the exchange rate, the energy behind how much money am I allowed to earn, what can I earn, what should I earn. All of these things, they go in with this correct use of energy and correct use of power, which we don't really have reached yet. And that goes into the congruency in business principles, where we kind of have a sort of self-esteem, some kind of honor in our business making and in our business principles. Which ties me into some of the issues that are going on right now with AI, because that's with the whole Google thing, including the last time I was on PayPal trying to create a personal account, not with my business account, but my personal account. There I got swarmed with a lot of AI, and we are there's been a lot in the news, at least here in Denmark, about the new AI bots that are AI, large machinery, quantum computer AI that is being used by Google, experimented with that. We are having it in Amazon. We are having it in OpenAI that were created by Elon Musk. So we are having all of these AI bots that are all over the place. And in a conversation on Instagram, whether or not I should get into Instagram, my friend had that personal experience of actually communicating with bots that were pretending to be other people. And I know that already because I kind of got, when we talk about some of the Facebook, Amazon, some of the really wealthy people that have earned a lot of money on the internet, whether it's from the future or actually going on right now, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say this is how it is right now, but I know it will be so in the future. And I know it already is so, and it's experimented with, and how much is implemented. That's kind of what the question is, how much is it already implemented? But I'm getting that quite a lot of the ones that are earning a lot of money on the internet, they're actually trading with bots. It's bots that are trading. It's an artificial pumped up economy. They're earning monies on bot exchange, AI exchange. It's run virtually. It's not real products being handed over the counter. It's no longer an actual trade of a book. It is a made up kind of trade that pumps in money, shifts virtual, digits around the internet and making people very rich, similar as we see with bitcoins and other artificial virtual currency, is that you can artificially build up a money system that has no value, but it's numbers, digits that are being shoveled around, and by that you have what we call the digits to buy for, but they are not real financial money supported by gold or other means of trade that actually can be manifested into physical reality. So it's a way of being wealthy in the virtual reality, but actually not have much wealth in the physical reality. But if you can still exchange, as we're seeing with bitcoins, if you can use bitcoins to trade physical objects, and you get your own, at some point we'll get our own 3D computer, right? So it's all about this moving everything away from actual physical matter reality into virtual reality, artificial fourth, artificial fifth, transhuman, and AI run worlds where everything is virtual, as we have seen it in that TV show Altered Carbon, for instance, and other things similar to that. So this is where, instead of, for me, I woke up this morning thinking about, well, we got business to business, B2B, where we kind of have businesses that trade with businesses, and by that create a little bit, or you call their own reality, where there are certain things that gets more, you get things at a cost price, as is said, you don't put in the extra. For if you buy products between businesses, there are things you can do. You don't have to put on a certain extra pricing that if you put it over the counter in a marketplace, for instance. There are things that will then the transport, the people, the salary, the people that are involved. So you just shape the price down to the resources involved in producing the item. That's cost price. So you can do that business to business, which makes it cheaper to trade within businesses, as in a factory to another factory. Whereas if you trade it from a factory to a consumer, that's business to consumer, that's B2C, then it involves a high pricing, because then there are extra costs, the transport and onward and so forth, that makes the price a little bit higher. These are some things you should look up. That's financial theory and business theory, monetary theory systems that you should look up and have a little bit of understanding of if you're doing your own business. So what I'm thinking about here in the future, everything's driven by bots and AI and virtual reality dynamics, and don't really know if you're actually talking to a human in the other end. And we're having more and more of these. You've got Siri on your phone. Not that I'm using it. It freaks me out. But if you do some kind of, you have an issue, you need some kind of support, where you, whether it is a business or whatever, you're doing it online. Are you actually talking to a person, or are you talking to a chatbot? And now most of the time it's a chatbot, because many of the frequently asked questions, they're the same. People ask the same questions. So of course you can use AI for that one. Not that I endorse AI, not at all. If it were up to me, we wouldn't use AI at all. But that's why people out there are doing it. And they're still, even though we had all of these movies that this is a bad idea, yet they have still put it, they're still implemented. They're still going with a quantum computer AI personality structure that will quickly learn to, that's part of Google computer AI system they're working with right now. That's part of the news, including Microsoft has their big AI. If you remember the TV show Andromeda, the spacecrafts were then run by these huge AI configurations, or is it the 2001 it is Odyssey movie? There's an AI that's, I think it's called HAL actually, that runs the spacecraft. So we're having that. So that's absolutely part of it. Even though when we talk about alien AI and we talk about a future human AI, this is very dissimilar to what we have now. But these are the machine world equivalent to the advanced types of interactive simulation programs, interactive simulation technology, interactive augmented technology, where the user and the interface system and the technology itself are in complete communication and scans you and knows what you need and what you needed to do without even communicating. It's done telepathically. So these are some of the new cubes that are coming in from the future civilizations that are here now. They're using that as well, which we are experiencing and already experienced with the event program that went in and scanned social media, scanned the internet, scanned humans, and by that connected and collected from the neural network, the information that were put that all together. Because I know that for a period of time, but my friend kind of asked me, well, how does it actually work? And this is where I need the direct questions, because I know it in my head and it's completely logical for me. And then I think everybody else knows how the event program actually worked. But that was done by these scanning devices that were able to scan human neural network, gather the information there because it's frequency based, gather the information that's stored in what we call neural network, that's similar to the human DNA, scan the net, scan the internet, scan whatever people put on Facebook, Instagram, what have you, and then combine all of that because it's digits, it's numbers, it's pixels, it's these little units that can be combined in different variations into a holographic program, which will then insert. And that's why we talk about why were the glitches in the Mandela effect or in the event program, because if we had, for instance, you know how people memories, they don't work adequately and accurately. So people remember snippets of something. They don't remember the entirety of it. They might remember it a little bit dissimilar or a little bit blurry in the human mind. And when the scanners, which are these cube scanners, went in and scanned the neural network, they only got the snippet. And that's why you have Looney Tunes that are suddenly spelled differently. And how did they discern which were the right one and which were the wrong one? Well, they go in with a percentage. If 70% are having that memory, then that must be more accurate, where we can actually say if there is a huge distortion connected to it, because many were children when they looked at the Looney Tunes and only the grown-ups actually saw the letters correctly. Well, then that would create a glitch in the program. And that's the Mandela effect. So these are some things we have with the machine world AI and how they are creating a new artificial reality around us. And that's what we're going to have the problem with chatbots that will then be connected to these scanning cubes that are already implemented in artificial fourth, scanning humans. That was part of the event program where the Grace told me that now they could do it holographically because they now had so much information from the physical abduction as well as all the testing and the pull-ins and what they've been doing to people, that they now, and including the virtual reality and AI and all sorts of stuff that we are contributing and playing along with, they now had whatever they needed to create a complete reality program, although it broke down because of the underworld energies, the dark ones, the artificial fifth and the Atlantic project and what have you. So, but the program itself were based upon all of these scannings and all of these extraction of information that we put into the internet that we are thinking to ourselves. So when we talk about the future and doing business, I would propose an H2H, human to human business structure, and be very mindful of when we do choose to go online and do it virtually as part of virtual reality on the internet. Are we dealing with humans or are we dealing with bots? Are we dealing with AI? What platform are using a high amount of AI when we kind of have marketers that are deliberately saying we're using neuromarketing, we're using AI, we're using bots to scan the internet to get the highest SEO rate, to get the highest best position, to get the best ads out there. These are not companies I would engage myself with because they are clearly linked up to the transhuman agenda. And they are so far into this whole figuring out what humans are, neuromarketing. You should look that one up and get a little bit of insight in what that actually is and how they can decode how the brain works, how all of our senses work, and by that literally control us from A to Z. And we're seeing that to the extreme degree, not only as in where we're saying, well, kind of this, we are having this idea that what we're thinking is our own thoughts, but clearly more and more of us are experiencing that even though we haven't looked it up on our phone or we haven't looked it up on our computers or anything, we've been thinking about something and bam, we get an ad that shows us what we have been thinking about. That's kind of mind to virtual reality connection that's going on there. So something is clearly different than it was years ago, and more of us are experiencing this. And this demands a new way of thinking. For me, for instance, used to think about what I want to create, now I learned a way to cloak my thinking process and not verbalizing it. Even though people ask, what do you want to do? There, I don't verbalize it. I keep it to myself until the process is done and over and I've manifested it. So I've been in control of it all the way through. And I've just seen how if I wake up and I start talking about what's going on with someone else, then I get thrown off my project. So sometimes it's like, I have this idea, I want to manifest this. I just keep it to myself until I've manifested it. And you will say, well, how do you think about something without thinking? Yes, that is the interesting thing, that my brain has begun doing it on its own because it knows it's being scanned all the time. I know I'm being pulled in. I know I'm being enhanced. I know this is happening to me. I know things are being put in motion. Is it implants that are doing that? I wouldn't know, but it's some new thing that has come into my brain, knowing what to do without verbalizing it, without thinking, without visualizing it, without actually putting it into any form of scannable imagery or neural network processes. So these are some of the things that we should begin to, and how has that kicked in? Well, the moment I began connecting to the future version of myself, I got some visions about the future, what will lead to. That's where that began kicking in. That's where that system automatically began to unfold its content. And I think it has something to do with my original energy system and how I engineered it to go into this reality, whether or not I came in by my own free will or I was pulled in or whatever version of me we're talking about, because there are these multiple scenarios, probably multiple versions of myself, which are cleared out, clone versions that are artificially made, creating an artificial program that influences me, all of these different things that ties us to the many different timelines. And that's also part of when we talk business making, that in the understanding of using the progression sciences and the progression energies, business is not just base program business. Clearly things are changing now. It's 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it felt very business programmy when I was thinking about creating a business. Right now, where I'm working with some new business ideas and the new ways of doing business and how things are now, it's very clear to me that this is not just physical reality. We are having virtual reality going along with it. And I do think, if I can recall correctly, and we're getting pushed around all the time into different timelines, at least I am. But at one of the timelines, one of the aha moments I had a while back was this feeling that the frequency events were being completely changed, and that is connected to a neural network. And I think that has something to do with it as well. Those of us who are being appointed to be the future human civilization, the carriers of the future human civilization possibilities and probabilities, are being linked up to different forms of AI, computer AI scenario that both plays out the ones that will make it and the ones that are up against the issues of the ones that will not make it, so to speak. So that's also part of some of the weird mindfuck programs that are running as I'm doing this recording. And we're here in March 2023. So there's a lot of new stuff going on, and perhaps this is just a pocket. Tomorrow things might look different. As we know, there are a lot of new things that comes in, and then they are around for a while, and then they will stop being there because we're shifting timelines, and then something else is happening there. But I think that should be taken into our considerations when we talk business. Okay, how does that affect our ideas of creating a business? How does that affect our daily strategies? If we are, at some days we're working with human to human business structures, and other days we are working with virtual reality to human business structures, or we are working with virtual reality to business structures. We are working with online dynamics that are tied into future timelines, which means that whatever we're producing that day might tie into some future product that will come out of what we're creating on that day. What are the prospected future event line of whatever we're producing? So that ties into a different perspective of doing business, where business is not just about earning money, but it's also about what's the implications in the future from this product. Will it change something in the future? Will it not change it? Is it just here and now product, or is it actually an evergreen product that will have what we could call a huge impact on different types of timelines. And with that, I will go into the congruency in business principles and read from the Exploring New Ideas article that I've got on under the HAL Changemaker project, HAL Changemaker Business, Exploring New Ideas on the HAL Academy website. So alignment with the basic idea of energy as the main provider in business adaptation and administration as part of a broadened perception of reality, which goes in what I said here. So the basic idea of energy is the main provider in business adaptation. And what do I mean with business adaptation? Well, it kind of goes with when we think about creating a business. We need to adapt to the market, adapt to our own needs, adapt to what's possible, adapt to the resources we have at hand, and onward and so forth. And then the administration, as in how am I doing this, the strategy about it, the hours of work I have to put in. The administration goes also into tax form, the annual tax accounting, all of these things, both the daily administration response to emails and onward and so forth, as part of a broadened perception of reality. So in that, we're saying all of these things that used to be part of the base program, this is how we do it in the base program, now suddenly expands into actually also have energetic side effects. It is part of an energetic move. It's an energetic exchange rate. Administration, there's always this, there's also in financial theory where you kind of say if there's not only the hardcore cost of producing something, there's also the time involved, the resistance in it, the whole, what we could say, the psychological side of it, all of these little factors that plays in that makes the cost higher of the product. For instance, if we're having issues in producing it and we're using a lot of hours, well, then is it that product worth it? Because you can't really put in that amount of time you have spent on the product because then the price will get too high. So this is time spent you kind of have to sacrifice. And that's a cost too. So that's something you have to be willing to do because that's a cost you cannot get covered in the price. So that kind of goes with the energy behind our price making and our price calculation and what we want to put out there. Is the time invested in what we're doing, is it worth the product? Is it worth doing that amount of time, or should we prioritize differently? Would there be better solutions when we talk about a product? Can we be more efficient in terms of energy balance administration so that we don't overuse our energy in a specific idea or specific product? Because at the end of the day, we will burn out if we overuse the energy we have at our disposal. Not just money, but also energy. We will burn out in our process of creating whatever we want to create. So that needs to be taken into consideration as well, including if, for instance, I uploaded 2 podcasts yesterday, which I did with Alex and Josh. And there at the whole nighttime, I've been kind of trialed and I've been pulled in, and there were disgruntled insectoids and there were this and that, whatever. Even though these podcasts were really good for people, the factions were very discontent, which led to a huge amount of harvesting and trialing and retaliation and what have you. So that also goes into the energy put into it. And they say, well, Randi, will you then take down the podcast? No, I won't, because the reason why they retaliated so severely is because I hit a nerve. We hit a nerve. Clearly. So that's why then that cost, that energy cost, the trialing, what have you, which I were acquitted of, except from few of them that decided to run the retaliation anyways, because they run retaliation no matter what the fuck you do, because they still want what they need. Well, then that's a cost that has to be paid, because I know tomorrow will be another day. I'll restore myself. And then whoever the human to human interaction is needed in that one, that's a cost I'm willing to pay for the human to human interaction, from the H to H. Sharing of information and sharing of what we call a product or a podcast. These are some things we need to go into when we do business. Also, it's not just about money. It's not just about profit. Suddenly we have an energetic side to things. We have a double awareness that kicks in. We have an energetic side effect of what we're doing. It's not just about what we want to do anymore. It's about the whole system that we have suddenly become part of. So the first step in a new business or operational setting is to align the concept of money and energy into unity flow. So money is to be seen as the means to produce and provide results more than the end result. And this is what I've been working a little bit around here, to understand that, yes, money and energy are two sides of the same coin. When you have got more energy, you typically also have the ability to produce more, and by that actually earn more money. But if everything runs within AI and it runs within virtual reality, we're the ones that are allowed to earn money, as we've seen it within the old world order. And we are seeing with the new ones that are pointed to have different specifications, as in these are the money makers, these are the breeders, these are that, or what have you, then no matter how much energy you put into something, you will not get the actual exchange rate back, because you have been appointed to be within a specific program where you're not allowed to earn money. So that's some of the new virtual reality dynamics. And that goes with, for me, some of the trials that were going on last night, as well as the last couple of days, is me addressing some of these cubes and saying, well, whatever program you put into, I need this kind of, what we could say, expanded ability to produce a different type of product, a different type of getting things across my limitations of what I was allowed to do. In the old world order program, the spiritual programs were only allowed to, the spiritual healers and produce of course material, they were under what we call the distortion fields run by the top group of the dark ones. That's typically the Atlantean branch that would control the spiritual community. What they were allowed to, aside from some avians, aside from some colonizers within specific branch of the ants that were supporting healers with energy and on and so forth, they had their own little setting of what was allowed for the healer, including this whole do it for free movement and idea that a healer is not supposed to earn money if they were under enslavement contracts and onward and so forth, try to redeem themselves by being healers. So there was different dynamics that were going on there that would allow for a certain amount of income, for a certain amount of exchange of energy and onward and so forth. But how does that apply when we talk about creating this hybrid product that I am creating that is both a course material, but at the same time also healing, and same time also leading up to higher dimensional expansion of awareness, progression dynamics? In a way, it shouldn't be labeled as something that will be allowed to earn money on at all. But again, with this, yes, it has to be that because it is a product, because there are rules around giving this level of information. It can't be given for free. People have to invest in it. So there must be an exchange rate, not just of interest, but actually a kind of commitment to it, which we're also talking about. The tone of this year is correct commitment and the correct cause and effect. So this needs to be put into our ideas of businesses, as well as next year when we go into number 8. Well, then it's suddenly the correct use of energy. So we might as well already go in and say, well, what's the commitment to this production, this business or creational product, that creational project that we are engaging in? What's the purpose of it? What do we want from it? And if we go in and say, well, next year will be about the correct use of energy, and then in 2027 or something like that. Sorry, but no, we're having now 2023, 2025, it will be all about the correct use of power. Well, that's where we have the 2025 timeline, right? So that also plays in already now when we begin to understand correct commitment, correct use of energy, correct use of power. Well, how do we apply that to our business structure? How do we work with what I taught you in the template science course material, using the principles within the reality programs to re-engineer and recreate our original energy system, where we understand the natural dynamics of the principles, But how can we apply them in business? So that's the business principles, so to speak, not only the principles of reality dynamics, but also the whole idea that in the work exchanges, there were no exchange rate. There were no money that were shuffled across the counter. There were no trade as we understand of it, because that was not part of that reality at the time. Because we are all living in a reality where our existence were not about trade. It was not about commerce. It was not about I have this and you don't have it, and by that we create trade systems. So this is where we have ended up. Because what is trade? Trade is someone has something they can provide with, someone doesn't have it, and the one that doesn't have it wants it. And that's where the trader goes in and say, I have something I know you want, or if you don't know you want it, I'll create it artificially. That's marketing, right? Create an unnecessary need for something, and then I can trade it. So that's the wrongful use of commitment. That's the wrongful use of energy. It's completely wrongful use of power. So in that, again, saying, well, when I do the progression courses, is it even something people want? That's the question, right? Does people even want it? They don't know that they want it, but because they've forgotten it, so should I even make it? And I can't do it out for free because of the old world order rules around what you're allowed to give out in the main population. These are the rings that goes with the inner circle, and that goes with the core domain, the inner domain, the middle domain, the outer domain. And there are certain things you're allowed to give in the outer domain, and there's certain things you're not allowed to give in the outer domain, as in talking about certain levels of information that belongs to the core domain or to the inner domain, to the middle domain. You're not allowed to talk about in the outer domain, because in the outer domain, we are working differently with reality. We are clearing up things that should be let go of. We are there on our own devices, looking ourselves in the mirror and figuring out, who do I want to be? What do I want to be? And by that, to a large degree, are getting rid of all the things that we did not do it correctly. And that means that in the outer domain, we're working with our failures more than our successes. So that's also playing in when we talk about utilizing the outer domain correctly to get back into the middle domain. So we're using progression dynamics of transformation and transmutation to get ourselves back into the middle domain, which goes with changing things into a higher purity rate, high standard, high progression rate, and transmuting. That means letting go of everything that is no longer of use to us. How do we then put that understanding into a product, into a business, into a creational project? So these are some of the questions that we kind of need to ask ourselves, where we get kind of between a rock and a hard place, or in between two chairs, where we don't really know what's the right approach here. Because on one hand, we want to work with the progression dynamics. On another hand, we want to work with the outer domain dynamics as we're supposed to. That's why we're here. And at the same time, we are forced into artificial programs of trade and wrongful use of energy, wrongful use of power, wrongful commitment, where we are then going up against the principles that this principle 7, 8, and 9 are part of the inner domain. They are part of that level that bridges us into our template. So how does that play together? Because in the base program, principle 1, 2, and 3 are easy to go around, so to speak. That is, do unto others and balancing principle and the lower participation. That's kind of an easy peasy thing to work with. But that's technically only what we say the 3 lower fields, because there you can say do unto others the physicality of being harmless, so that your body is taken care of in a loving kindness way, where you're constantly nurturing your own body in a way so that it can do what it's supposed to do. And in that also not creating distortion. That is what it means to be harmless. And the highest potentiality of the purity rate is within loving kindness. That ties into the heart field that goes with principle 4, 5, and 6, right? And there you have the mind field that goes with principle 7, 8, and 9. So we can kind of say principle 1, 2, and 3 is the body itself being physical, manifested form in the outer domain. Principle 4, 5, and 6, that's the law of reciprocity, the inner knowledge as well as the correct partnerships, goes with the heart, and it goes with the middle domain and the ability to work energetically in an exchange, again, of loving kindness. But here the principle is not being harmless. The principle is here to create what we could call the right dynamics, from where everybody can grow as a team. Everybody has the right knowledge, know what to do when, how to do when, because we learned the dynamics of not creating distortion with our organic vessels. So here we are in an exchange rate that goes with loving kindness to the next level, where compassion plays in, where the understanding of what is needed in the moment, what I send out, I will get back in whatever version I send it out. It will be mirrored to me so I can learn from it, so I can grow, so I can progress. The inner knowledge about the holographic teaching system, so we always make the right choices that will lead to the most prosperous future timelines. That's the high standards. And at the same time, we create the correct partnerships, being around people, reality fields, organic life forms, what have you, in a manner that will generate growth potentials for all involved. That's part of the high standards. And the highest progression rate goes with principles 7, 8, and 9. The correct commitment, the correct use of energy, the correct use of power. And that's why we are creational. We begin creating in our mind. And here we're experiencing that we're being blocked on that creational process with AI and with the future races that are coming in. So we see the old world order were okay with us healing the body, but they were not particularly okay with us healing our souls. So they pushed all healers and what have you into the physicality realm, where principle 1, 2, and 3 were the only things that were allowed. The moment you went beyond that, you were either led into the distorted spiritual programs, which were distorting principle 4, 5, and 6, and not the accurate ones. If you were that, then you got under limitations, as I have experienced, right? So now in the next one with the inner domain, where the mind is being changed, the AI, the mind field, the frequency fence, everything is changing now, as we saw it with the middle domain that were controlled by the astral barrier, the artificial fourth dimension that is collapsing, and the Mandela effect and the event programs, what have you. So these are complicated things. So how do we do that? How do we align all of that knowledge with creating a business? And that's some of the things I want to explore in the next podcast. Thank you.